First off, I want to introduce Nora Nagel from the RTAG Executive Board, who's gonna welcome everyone here today. So Nora, just give us a second to spotlight you.
Oh.
All right. Thank you. Take it away, Nora.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nora Nagel, and I'm a member of the RTAG Executive Board, and I'm representing the Bay State Council of the Blind. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm congenitally legally blind myself. I'm a guide dog user, and I have been using the MBTA fixed route system for over 40 years. And I just wanted to thank everyone for being here today for RTAG's first listening session. Today's listening session is going to focus on issues impacting the MBTA fixed route system riders who are blind or have low vision. We're looking forward to hearing from everyone today about your comments and feedback, and that will help inform RTAG's advocacy on this topic going forward. And now I'd like to turn it back to Jessica.
Thank you, Nora. And thank you, Nora, to you and to Tom Gilbert, who is also in the audience today, another executive board member who really spearheaded planning this event. So thank you for all your hard work and advocacy. All right, so I'm now just going to run over some Zoom logistics. So we do have ASL interpreters and CART interpreters today. Our ASL interpreters are Linda Gregorio and Sandy Lugren. To view their video, you find the interpreter's video in the gallery in the top right corner. You click the ellipses, then you click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. We also will be spotlighting the interpreters. Next slide, please. We also have CART captioning. Our CART captioner tonight is Denise Garcia. To view closed captioning, you click the closed caption with the CC icon. Just a tip, if you click and drag the closed captioning to move its positioning in the meeting window, to adjust the caption size, you can click the upward arrow next to the start and stop video. And then you can click video settings and then accessibility and move the slider to adjust the caption size. Next slide, please. Please use chat for technical questions. You can use Alt-H to access the chat. If you have a technical question about Zoom or the features of the meeting, please use the chat function to ask these questions. Our technical assistant will attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. Next slide, please. Today's agenda. So first, we already heard from Nora Nagel, our RTAG Executive Board member. And next, we're going to talk about some priorities and areas of focus. We're going to hear from the SWA Engagement Coordinator, Jennifer Ross. Then we're going to talk about some technology updates from the Accessible Technology Project Manager, Meg Collins. Next, we're going to have a presentation from the Director of Transit Technology, Logan Nash, on real-time tracking. And then we're going to have a comment and feedback session where we want to hear from all of you. Next slide, please. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the MBTA so that they can give some updates to the group. First up is Jennifer Ross, the Customer Engagement Coordinator from Systemwide Accessibility.
Thanks, Jessica. Good afternoon, all. On behalf of the MBTA and the Department of System-Wide Accessibility, I want to welcome you all today and thank you for your participation. My name is Jennifer Ross. I'm the Customer Engagement Coordinator at the Department of System-Wide Accessibility. I'm a white woman with long brown hair and I'm wearing a pink top. For those of you who do not know us, SWA's mission is to drive the MBTA to be the model for accessible public transportation. For those of us who are blind or low vision, we face many challenges while navigating the T. We're working hard to find solutions, but we need your feedback and engagement to assist us. Some of the many things our department does are, we review all project plans, infrastructures and service changes. We assist in developing employee trainings. We oversee undercover monitoring or secret shopper program. We track customer feedback and make sure complaints are handled appropriately. That falls under my realm. We set priorities for future investments and new policies. Our priorities are largely set by listening to customers' concerns and suggestions. The photo depicted here are of 3 riders alighting the bus onto a city sidewalk. One customer is using a service animal. Next slide, please. Some of SWA's ongoing priorities. With focus on experience of customers who are blind and low vision, SWA has identified these priorities that are ongoing. Stop announcements. We understand it's important for clear and accurate stop announcements for every rider to navigate, but especially for our riders who are blind or have low vision. Navigating stations, as no 2 stations are alike in the MBTA fixed route system. Platform safety and detectable warnings. Locating bus stops, locating call boxes, and making sure you can secure assistance. Accessing information on digital screens. Station staffing levels and employee trainings. Snow removal at bus stops and MBTA property. Wow, we know this is a big one. Thankfully, we're moving into the spring. Service animal awareness. Accessibility of our website and apps, and better communication and awareness of changes and improvements. The photo depicted here is of 2 riders on a bus. One rider is holding his white cane in his hand. Next slide, please. Some of our most recent initiatives are additional ambassadors at station to serve our riders. Fully refreshed accessibility training for bus operators and subway motor persons. We were the special guest at the Mass Commission for the Blind's town hall meeting last October, where the focus was transforming accessible transportation for people with disabilities. We are doing information sharing with agencies who are blind or of low vision. We have a customer communications directors group that's meeting once a month. We partner with customer technology to make sure that accessibility is included in all initiatives. The photo depicted here is of a rider who's blind utilizing a white cane, and she's boarding a Green Line trolley at Government Center. Next slide, please. We invite you to contact us and learn more. Our complete initiatives report you can find at mbta.com/accessibility. We put out this report semi-annually, and it lists all of our initiatives. If you have questions, complaints, or commendations, you can file them through phone 617-222-3200, via our website at www.mbta.com and click on support. You can tweet at MBTA. You can email us at swa@mbta.com. And you can also email us if you'd like to learn more about providing feedback for our initiatives. Next, I'd like to introduce Meg Collins. She's one of our newer members of the Customer Technology Department. And this is the first time we've had a project manager dedicated exclusively to accessible technology. We're thrilled to have her on board. Please help me welcome Meg Collins.
Hey there, I'm Meg Collins. Thank you, Jen. As Jen mentioned, I'm the project manager for Accessible Tech with the Customer Technology Department. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of new initiatives and research projects that we have in the queue regarding accessibility. The first one I'm going to be covering is new station lobby digital screens. We've got some digital screens that are going to be dedicated solely to service information that will be rolling out in several stations over the course of the next few weeks. We already currently have some screens installed at Tufts Medical Center and Maverick. And then soon we'll be installing screens at Government Center, Back Bay, Porter, Ashmont, and Forest Hills. This will include real-time service alerts and system-wide elevator uptime information. At each of these screens, there will be a push button to activate the audio feature. There's an image here where we have the two screens where there is a picture of the orange line. And then on the other screen, there is a picture of alerts about a shuttle replacing the orange line service towards Oak Grove. And below that, there's a list of elevator closures. To the right of that, there's the audio push button that has a sign that says press for audio. Under that, there is a Braille placard, and that's just kind of highlighted in the image. Next slide, please. The next initiative we'll be talking about is finding a bus stop with confidence. As some of you may know, GPS is not very reliable at the last 30 feet. So finding a bus stop pole with confidence and safely is currently a challenge. So currently there's new radio technology available called ultra wideband, and that is commercially available on the market now. This is used in products like Apple AirTags, Tile, where you can use your cell phone and a small device to find things like your keys or your wallet. We're currently working on a request for information right now to see if this is the technology solution that we can use to help solve that last 30 feet problem in finding the bus stop pole. In the image here, we have what we're imagining the solution might be, where there is a rider with a cane, and he is walking towards the location with an ultra wideband beacon being the cue for him to know where to go. There is a hand holding his cell phone where it says navigating with voiceover, audio cues, and haptic feedback. The rider finds his precise distance and direction. On the phone, there is something there, it says Huntington Ave at Riverway. The bus stop, Navigation Avenue to Huntington, is 20 feet to your right. Then it shows the rider finding their exact bus stop location pole independently and with confidence. Next slide, please. We're also looking into some indoor wayfinding solutions within our stations. Commencing this research effort in the spring of 2022, we're going to be then looking into the research insights on this to then conduct a pilot in about 4 MBTA stations. If this is successful, we'll scale this indoor wayfinding technology to more stations. Some of the indoor wayfinding technologies we're researching are Good Maps, which uses LiDAR and camera positioning, Navilens, which uses QR codes and your mobile phone to help wayfind you throughout a station, and Okenia, which also utilizes beacons and mapping. Next slide, please. So that concludes some of the efforts that we have going on in the accessible tech space for new initiatives. So I'll be handing it over to feedback on some of our existing technology with Logan Nash, our Director of Transit Technology in the Customer Technology Department.
Thanks, Meg. So as Meg mentioned, I'm Logan Nash. I am our Director of Transit Technology.
Sorry, Logan, can you hang on 1 second for us to spotlight you? There you go. All
Yep,
right,
no,
all set. Sorry, go
no
ahead.
problem. Yep, so hi everybody. My name is Logan Nash. I work with Meg, also in the Customer Technology Department. And I want to just quickly spotlight some of the existing tools that we provide to riders that may be especially helpful to riders who are blind or low vision. Because we want to make sure that folks have an opportunity to give feedback about these tools as part of the listening session. So the first one I want to talk about are on-vehicle bus stop announcements, which are provided through the Transit Master system. So this includes announcements that you hear as a rider on the bus when you're on the vehicle. The bus will announce the next stop. And as you're boarding a vehicle, the bus should announce externally what the destination and route number of that vehicle is. So I'm happy to say we made a recent change in that system that I hope people have noticed, where we think the volume more accurately reflects what's needed depending on the time of day. So we used to get many complaints we would get complaints from riders or operators that the stop announcement volume was too quiet. But when we raised the volume, sometimes we would hear complaints from neighbors that, at 6 a.m. or late at night, that the announcements were too loud, right? Waking people up in their living rooms. So we were able to make a change in the system so that the volume of those announcements varies depending on the time of day, which we're happy with so far. The second system I want to talk about are our in-station countdown signs in our PA system. So if you're a subway rider and you're standing on the platform, these are the electronic countdown signs and the associated PA announcements that tell you when the next train is coming. So we know this is a system that's important to riders. And right now, one of the things we're working on is investigating an occasional lag that might come up in the system where maybe the PA announces that a train is boarding, but perhaps it's already departing. We recognize that's a really serious issue. So we've been working with the vendor to sort of identify when that's happening, and I think work on some improvements that should correct that problem. And the final system that I want to make sure folks are aware, we're happy to talk about, are our on-vehicle subway stop announcements. So if you're on a light rail train, a red line train, an orange line train, the announcements that you hear about the next station when you're on the vehicle. And for our new red and orange line vehicles, these also include LCD screens that provide some of that same information in a sort of a large screen format for riders. And that's all I have. So I'll go to the next slide and we are happy to start taking some questions.
Thank you, Logan. So now we're gonna start do the feedback portion of today's event. If you have any questions, we ask that you use the Zoom's hand raise feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator, me, will then unmute attendees to ask questions in the order of which they've raised their hands. And just a shortcut in case it's helpful, if you can press Alt-Y and that will raise your hand in the queue. And if you're on the phone, you can press *9, that will raise your hand. So do we have any questions or feedback? And we want to hear from you. It doesn't have to be what was in the presentation. If there's any issues or access barriers that impact you, we want to hear from you. I'll open it up. First, I'll call on Tom Gilbert. Hold on, Tom. There you go.
Hi.
All
Are you everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you. Well,
Okay. Hi, Logan and Nora. I have a question. Has anybody checked into the issues with the new red and orange line cars that I think I've mentioned before, that on certain occasions, not any particular car, but it does it on all cars, that the locators are not working? They're supposed to be, the locator is supposed to be like a beep sound when the door is open as the train is idling, and I've noticed with the new ones I haven't heard it, and that's concerning me, because that's another tool for us to know that the station is actually in the station. If it does make an inaccurate boarding announcement, at least we can hear the locator from the train itself, that whether it's actually in the station or not in the station. And that's an important thing I wanted to ask, as far as quality control and the trains that are coming from Springfield that are being manufactured, and make sure that they're working when they come to the T premises. Thanks.
Yeah, I can take that question if other folks from customer technology or system-wide accessibility want to jump in. Yeah, I know
I'm
the
sorry,
locator.
hold on,
Oh, yeah.
folks, while we switch interpreters. Just hold on. There we go. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Logan.
Great. So yeah, Tom, thank you for bringing that up. I do want to say I think we take that seriously. If the locators aren't working, that's part of the quality control checks we do for the new vehicles. So I think if there's any of the new red or orange line vehicles where you do notice those door locators aren't functioning, that is something that we want to hear about, if possible, with the vehicle number, but so we can investigate and make sure that we're working with the vendor to make sure that that's working. And I want to pause to see if anyone else from system-wide accessibility or customer technology wants to jump in with anything additional here. Okay.
All right. Great. Thank you, Logan. And thanks, Tom, for your question and feedback. Next, I'm going to call on Jennifer Kellogg.
Hi,
Jennifer, just give us 1 second to spotlight you. Oh, you don't have your, okay, no, you don't have your video.
I don't
Go
have my
ahead.
video on.
Yep, go ahead.
I didn't hear when all these different technologies would be implemented.
Logan or Meg, does anyone want to?
I can speak to that. So right now we're in more of the exploratory phase. So right now for the indoor wayfinding one, we're commencing research, and then we're going to be conducting a pilot probably later in 2022 for the outdoor wayfinding part and finding a bus stop. We're already in the midst of working with a request for information to gather more information about the existing hardware that is out there on the marketplace. And so if that is actually the solution that we want to embark on, then we're going to continue to mature that into a real pilot in terms of selecting some bus stops as well. If either of these pilots are successful, then we'll be scaling probably more in 2023 to additional stations and bus stops. Does that answer your question?
Yes, when will the announcement boards be at all the stations?
Oh, the screens.
Yeah.
I think that I might ask someone else in the CTD to speak to that a little bit.
I'm happy
Cardi,
to
would
do
you
that.
be able to speak to the screens schedule?
Sure.
Thanks. Who is that?
Cardi Subramanian.
Oh,
Jessica.
great,
I'm
thanks.
from the MBTA.
Thank you. I just couldn't find to spotlight you. Go ahead.
No worries. I'm Cardi Subramanian. I work in the customer technology department with Meg and Logan and others who are here on the call. I manage all of our digital signage related efforts. So as Meg said, we initially are going to have these screens at 3 stations by the end of next week. They'll be at 7 stations by another month from now. And we've actually committed funding wise to installing these screens at every rapid transit station. But that is going to take probably 2 or 2.5 years because of the sort of in-station construction work. So it'll be a process, sort of probably,
And
50
how are
more
we
screens every 6 months.
How are we supposed to find the screens?
How are you supposed to find the screens? I don't think that I can reasonably answer that question. We're trying to place them. So we're working with Systemwide Accessibility and Wayfinding and a few other departments to try and make them, to try and place them in accessible paths of travel. We're putting them in every accessible lobby of every station. We're trying to have them in consistent locations within every station, i.e. near fare vending machines or other physical wayfinding signage. But as you probably know, every station is completely different and there isn't necessarily space to put them in exactly the same location. And so we are doing our best, working with security and safety and wayfinding and others to try and ensure that they're inaccessible paths of travel far enough away from the fare gates that someone could stand in front of them and take their time to read the information or press the button to get the audio readout. But unfortunately, I don't think there's anything we can do to make them like in exactly the same location in every station lobby.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call on Gang Lao.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Do you want to?
Okay.
Yep, you're all set. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, hi. I just want to share with everybody here that first of all, I work at Mass and Year. I'm a research scientist. My lab developed and also released the app to help visually impaired people to find a bus stop. The app is called All Aboard. It's an iOS version. And NBC Boston just reported this news 2 days ago. It uses smartphone camera to search for the bus stop sign for people. So this is one of the solutions I think may help with the visually impaired people. It doesn't require any changes in the infrastructure. You just need if you have an iPhone, you can use that, try out. We like to hear more feedback. And also we like to let MBTA to be aware of there's such a technology in there. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, I'm gonna, do we have any other questions or any feedback? We want to hear from everyone. What are some of the barriers you encounter, some of the, what's working, what's not working?
Jessica, could I just respond to Gang's?
Oh, sure,
note?
sorry. Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's, so Gang, thank you for joining. We saw the article in NBC Boston. We actually also saw the issue, I think, in Mass Eyenear publication back in January. We would love to connect with you. We would love to know more. We would love to see, we would love to hear the feedback from riders who are using your app. So we will, after this meeting, we are very happy to connect to learn more. And I think most importantly, hear from riders about whether they are having a good experience and sort of able to safely and confidently navigate to bus stops. So thank you for telling us about this.
Yeah, really appreciate it. That's exactly what I need to learn about.
Great. Thank you. Next, I'm going to call on Esther Miner.
Hi, I'm a person with vision difficulties. I have very, very low vision, and those in Systemwide know me because I constantly complain about the terrible lighting in the stations. One of my major pet peeves has been the lighting at North Station, on the commuter rail platform, inside the TD Garden. Thank goodness the Orange Line sides have gotten a little bit better. Park Street has considerably gotten better, thank God. But now like I said, I'm having issues with the commuter rail stations, also Back Bay Station, upstairs and down. I would like to know how in the world are you going to put these screens where those of us with low vision that can hardly see in these stations can see them, and are they going to be lit up enough for us to be able to see and not have difficulties?
Go ahead, Cardi. You want to take that? Okay.
I can take that. So first, I'm sorry to hear that you find the lighting in our stations so frustrating. Also happy to hear that there's been some progress at some stations. These digital screens, the new ones that Meg told you about and showed a visual of, are high brightness LCD screens. So they're sort of rated for indoor or outdoor placements, outdoor placement, digital signage being sort of like extra bright. And we have the ability to tune that parameter. So if the screens are not bright enough, and it would be helpful to tune up the brightness, that is certainly feedback you can give us. And if in some cases the screens are too bright and affect those with vision sensitivities in the other direction, that is also something we can respond to. Now we'll have to figure out sort of a balance between these things, but that is a parameter we control. And to be clear, these screens are or can be at least extremely bright. So if you want more brightness to be able to see, that I don't think is going to be a concern, given that these are rated for outdoor environments.
And Jessica, if I could just jump in on the lighting concern in general.
Sure, just hold on, let's spotlight you. All right, you're all set.
All right. Hi, Esther. It is good to hear from you. This is Laura from Systemwide Accessibility. Just so you know, and so that everyone is aware, there definitely is an awareness throughout the agency that lighting is a critical feature in our stations and along our streetscapes for all of our riders, but particularly with respect to accessibility. You mentioned noticing a big improvement at Park Street, and that is because a couple of years ago, there were some major upgrades at several downtown stations to improve wayfinding and lighting and overall cleanliness. We call that a wayfinding and brightening program. That is going to be continuing to roll out at a number of our most high ridership stations, with an effort to sort of improve those conditions that you're concerned about. So we can sort of get a more detailed update on where you'll hopefully be noticing those improvements over the next year or so. But I just wanted you to know that I think we do recognize how important that is, and some funding is being set aside to improve that.
Thanks, Laura. Next we have Kobina Bani.
Hi, thank you. And I don't have video either, so you don't have to spotlight me.
Okay.
I want to go back to the signage, the screens in the stations. I think you mentioned that there's going to be a button for folks to press for the audio. So I'm kind of a little curious. So if you find your way to the device, as a blind person, you're supposed to go all the way to the device, stand by it, press a button for it to start talking. Is that how it's conceived right now? That sounds a little odd, because imagine if there are people standing 3, 4, 5 feet away from the device and you have to walk all the way to it, press it. That visually doesn't look good. And also in terms of hygiene and all, could you guys explain how it's conceived right now and whether you consider some alternative ways to allow for no contact access?
I can speak to aspects of that, yes.
Go for it. You're all set.
Great. So I wish I had a perfect answer for you here, but we don't have a perfect answer. We have been working with Systemwide Accessibility on the question of how best to provide audio equivalents for digital signage for the last 2 years. We have talked to digital signage providers, the hardware providers in the digital signage industry. We have talked to peer transit agencies. We did interviews with about 20 riders who are blind or low vision 2 winters ago to try to figure out, what are all the ways that we can provide audio equivalents for digital signage. Excuse me. So let me say a couple of things. One is we have learned that regardless of what else we do, a push button should be part of the solution. We actually have data on how often people use push buttons inside, how often people use push buttons that already exist with our digital signage, and it's much more often than I would have guessed. We have seen security footage of transit ambassadors or other station officials using an audio feed to help riders get sort of an audio readout of bus arrival times, for example. So we think that a push button not a total solution, but should be part of the solution. And that's why we're providing it here. In different locations, so I don't know if you have ridden the bus through our new center running bus corridor on Columbus Ave. We have screens in those new bus shelters that have a speaker, and they don't require you to press a button. So if you're standing in the bus shelter every, I think, 3 or 5 minutes, I forget what the number is, there's an automatic audio readout that tells you when the following buses are arriving. The problem is inside our stations, as you probably know, we already have a public address system. And so it would be, I think, a terrible experience to have the normal public address telling you, you know, the next red line train to Ashmont is coming in 3 minutes, and also have all of these screens kind of automatically always on reading out information. And so we do have to balance kind of the environmental constraints of, you know, some screens are in environments where we can do automatic audio. Other screens are environments where a push button makes more sense. And in addition to all of that, we are actually very open to hearing feedback on how else we could provide audio equivalents. So we asked riders 2 years ago when we did these 20 interviews about whether we should think about building a smartphone app, for example, to deliver you know, service alerts and things like that through an app. And a lot of people said, no, I don't want another app on my phone. I don't want you to start pushing more information to me that pings me all the time with these notifications. So the truth is, we are doing the best we can in these different environments. We're trying to be thoughtful about, you know, places where a button makes sense, places where continuous audio makes sense. And if you have suggestions or recommendations or feedback, we are genuinely open to hearing them.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Matt McCubbin.
Hi. Ian, you don't need to put me on spotlight because my video is off as well.
Okay. Great.
So a couple of things. I want to first of all thank everyone from the MBTA and RTAG for putting on this meeting. It's very much appreciated by someone who's been using the T for a long time, but really hasn't been involved. I haven't really taken the T in the last few years, so I'm glad to see that there's many different pilot projects and initiatives up in the pipeline and currently ongoing. My first kind of point of feedback is it would be great if there could, I personally would like to see some movement toward an MBTA accessibility app of some kind. I know that an app will not serve everyone, and I think there needs to be other technologies explored, but there are many projects that the T is working on right now, like with indoor navigation, wayfinding outdoors, with ultra wideband. This whole issue, and I echo the concerns about using, you know, pressing the buttons on the kiosks. That's something that I probably wouldn't have been doing much before COVID, and now especially during the pandemic situation, these are things that I as a blind person will not be using. So I think looking at, okay, perhaps not using push notifications, but if this system could be tied into a navigation app, the system would already know my location. So then could I then get the same digital information from the sign or from the kiosk that is, you know, and have it presented in an app. So I feel like the information is already electronic, and the emphasis should not be just on providing audio equivalents, but accessible equivalents, because audio equivalents are not going to be as accessible as something that is fully text-based, and that could be accessible to everyone in many different formats, especially if someone can't hear. So that's my first point of feedback, is really looking at kind of condensing some of the initiatives into providing a maybe like a test playground, or just kind of an experimental place to try and test some of these different solutions. And then the other really major feedback issue is, so I was using the MBTA website a few weeks ago to plan a bus route, and I was really disappointed to see that there has not been any progress for accessibility. on the trip planner and also the bus schedules. And I think all these projects are great. These technology products are wonderful. But if a visitor or someone who's new to the T, or even someone who's been around for a long time, wants to look up new bus schedules or bus changes, and they're blind and use a screen reader, there are significant accessibility barriers with the, as I mentioned, the bus schedules, determining when buses are arriving and departing, and then the trip planner as well. And it's very disappointing to see that these concerns have not been resolved in the last few years. So I just want to reiterate that projects are great, technology is great and wonderful, but we can't forget about the basics and the accessibility of the core websites and all that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. Oh, Cardi, you wanna respond?
I just,
Before you respond, please, thank you.
Oh, sure. We're just gonna switch interpreters. Are we ready to go? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
So on the first topic of we should have an MBTA accessibility app, so we don't have plans to build an accessibility app, but we are excited to pilot some of these individual use cases. I think we want to be sort of more problem driven in sort of what technology we choose to build, which is why we're trying to identify the sort of most important problems to work on, and sort of indoor wayfinding. We've heard from several blind and low vision riders as one. Safely, sort of confidently finding the bus stop is another. We are very open to the idea that sort of like the collection of many of these ideas could one day lead to the need for a mobile app that sort of solves a collection of accessibility problems or challenges. But I don't think we can't start from sort of knowing that that's definitively the solution. But on the second thing you said, I think we on the customer technology side, it is our department that built and manages the MBTA website. I think I can speak for all of us when I say that we're disappointed to hear that you think there hasn't been sufficient progress on the accessibility of trip planner and bus schedules. I actually do think we have tried and had some recent software epics dedicated to that. So would it be possible for you to share your contact information with us? I'm sorry, I didn't catch who the speaker was, but we would, I would love to sort of let our web team respond directly, but because I think this is something they have tried to address. So at least giving them the chance to tell you what they did, and you can give them feedback on sort of what did or didn't work for you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to follow up after, and happy to follow up with the team as well. So
great.
Thanks, Matt. If you're registered under this name, I should be able to find the email you registered with and pass it along.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Jessica, can I add something to this as well?
Absolutely. Hold on, Jen. Let's spotlight you. All right, you're all set. Go ahead.
Thank you, Matt, as always, for your thoughtful feedback. I just wanted to invite you, Matt, and anyone else who's on the call that's interested. If you're interested in testing out, helping us sort of, test these and give more specific feedback, we'd be happy to have you on a list of folks that can do that would be willing to volunteer to check out screens or other things. So you can email us at swa@mbta.com, and we'd be happy to take that feedback in and put you on a list of folks to do some testing. So you can be, part of helping us shape those decisions. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jen. Next, we have Karen Cobb.
Hi, thank you for that wonderful session. I'm afraid I was a little late to the meeting. Mr. Bonnet made an excellent point about concerns about having to use push button to access audio screen. I am not tech savvy, but I'm wondering, could a badge or perhaps the tap badges issued by the state be retooled to use to access the audio screen without having to use push button to at least hear training bus schedules or the times of the vehicles arriving, so that way people would not have to touch the button, similar to how you use the MBTA card now to open the turnstiles to go through to enter the training stations or to get on the bus. I don't know if that's something technology is even capable of doing or if that's feasible, but I thought maybe we could throw that out there and see if the tap badges or something else could be used. Thank you very much for this interesting meeting.
Thank you, Karen. Next, we have Russell Andrews.
Hi, I don't have a video going.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you. I have two comments. So a couple of weeks ago, I went into Boston with my family. So I had a visual guide. We went to the aquarium, had a great time. And I really enjoyed the transportation, the whole trip. Sure, there's a few details, but you folks are doing a great job all around or in the big picture. And I have been on it in a couple of years, just I don't have much business out in Boston. I'm from Northbridge. So yeah, we really had a great ride. Thank you so much. The challenge was that my blind access to the MBTA card expired in 2017. So that was kind of a challenge, but you know, all of the people that were involved they just made it happen, you know, so I could pass through with my family. We had a great time. The challenge is getting a new card. I believe I read in the Globe that there were some delays on getting a replacement access card, and I would be given a temporary card. I'd just like to know are there any updates on that, receiving a new card? Something about the card printer had to go back to Germany to be repaired or something. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Jen, yep, I see you're ready to go. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Russell. We're always glad to hear that you had a great experience. To the best of my knowledge, and perhaps Laura Brailsford could speak to this about the challenges with the machine, they are still going on. But if you could put your name in the chat, or if you want to email me at swa@mbta.com, I could certainly help you put in a request to get a new blind access card. It may take a while. They do have machines that are up and running, but I'd be happy to help broker that. What they're doing for folks that are everyday riders that may, not have their senior or disability card, they are issuing a monthly pass. So something sort of temporary until they can get their permanent pass. So we don't want you to be without that, but I'm glad that the transit ambassadors helped you out.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call on Dan Benjamin.
Hi, actually, I'm not Dan, but I'm Lois.
Oh, hi. Hi, Lois.
Hi. I worked in Boston years ago. It was very hard. I am legally blind. I worked in Boston, and it's great, wonderful to have all this technology. But what does one do when they have to go into Boston, be able to get on the train where the train is not really accessible for people that are visually impaired, blind? Actually, we have been I have been on a committee for a very long time. We've been fighting myself for a long time. There are not any of the stops except for, let me put it this way, in high platform areas. Reading has one platform. I think Andover has another. There are no, between Wakefield and Boston, one cannot, if they're like myself, you cannot get on a train by yourself usually. But the problem is there are no, our train tracks are double train tracks because they go one way in and one way out. There are several places to park for the visually for people going into Boston. But what happens when they have a problem getting on the train? Something has, well, actually, I was at a meeting and we were told by our town committee councilors that the MBTA told us it was gonna be like $10 million to put these $50 million. Are you kidding?
I'm Dan, her husband, and the commuter rail station in Wakefield on North Avenue. We sit there at Dunkin' Donuts and look at the cars going by. Each car has a blue handicap logo on it, yet nobody in Wakefield can get on that train. They have 6 handicap spots at the depot on both crossings, and yet you see it empty every day. I wonder why, because nobody that's handicapped can get on that. It needs a raised platform like they have in Reading. Wakefield has 2 inbound and outbound trains, so you need one on each side. The MBTA says that it's going to cost $50 million. I myself could build a bridge for $50 million. So I'm sure the architects and engineers of the MBTA could come up with a solution for that. And I think Wakefield, which pays like $620,000 a year for the, I guess, the privilege of having 2 bus routes, which are now only 1, and the commuter rail station. But I think that it's long overdue in Wakefield. And I think it should happen. And I think their budget is coming up for the next 5 years. I think it should be put in their budget. I know our state rep, our state senator, our town council, and our commission on disability has said we need one. So I wonder if you can do something about that. And both of us are seniors, and we're not the technology people that a lot of people are, but we know it needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think I can speak to this one a little bit.
You're all set, Laura.
All right. So thank you both Lois and Dan. One role that our team in system-wide accessibility plays, one issue we spend a lot of time thinking about is station accessibility, particularly these days commuter rail station accessibility, because unfortunately Wakefield is not alone. We have 27 commuter rail stations that are fundamentally inaccessible. Nearly 80% of our stations are accessible, but 27 remain completely inaccessible, and Wakefield is one. I wish the cost estimates were incorrect, but to build a full high-level, fully accessible platform on average costs anywhere between $25, $30, and $50 million. The last 2 large stations we designed were over $50 million. And that is due
I hate to interrupt, but I find that highly unbelievable to build a platform for a wheelchair to go up the cost over $50 million. I think you've got the wrong engineers, or you're putting it out to bid to somebody, but it no way.
The town council was very upset about that. So.
Sure, and sorry, at any point, I'd be happy to sort of go into more technical detail about why the standards are the way they are and why the cost is what it is. Believe me, we have looked into all sorts of ways to bring down that cost. But one thing I do want to share here is that we are actually very, very actively looking at a proposal for some short-term accessibility improvements that potentially would bring solutions a little more quickly to this set of stations, including potentially Wakefield's. And we are working on a proposal that we would need buy-in from a number of regulators. But what I would like to do is, as we are working on that, sort of connect with you and your representatives in Wakefield, because we are going to need community support to get regulator buy-in. So if you can help me use your advocacy to get proposals supported to make some short-term common sense improvements, I think that would be a huge win for many, many riders. So if I will plan to try and get your registration information and reach out to you if that's okay with you after this meeting.
Me and my wife are seniors, and you're talking about years down the road. I have an expiration date, and a lot of people out there that are probably listening to this have a date out there. We can't wait, years and years and years. I think some of the housing that goes on, the 40A housing, that it's within a quarter of a mile of a commuter rail station. We've got over 1,000 units of housing coming in within the next probably 2 years in Wakefield. They have shuttle buses coming down to the commuter rail, which is just what I'm talking about. How are these handicapped people going to get on those? And I think they should look into that. And I again question, I could build a bridge for $50 million, not a handicap ramp. And I say that very, sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I believe we're gonna, we looks like we have some, we're gonna loop back to Tom Gilbert.
Hi, I have a question for Cardi, Logan, and Megan. I was wondering if this could be put on priority for the upper busway at Harvard Square. The audio announcements are working great now, so that they solved the problem with not having to hear the red line information anymore. We're finally hearing the bus information. That's working fine. But I was wondering in the long term if this could be put on priority to having a VMS sign put also up by the area where the 96 and the 77 picks up, because there's only one VMS currently there that's by the stairs towards the Brattle Street elevator. When you're waiting for the bus for the 96 and the 77, you can't be expected to walk all the way down. For somebody that's maybe like hearing impaired, or that might need me need it more than I would need it, and we would have to walk all the way down to the other end to see when the bus is coming, and then walk all the way back to the 96 and 77 berth area. So if there could be in the future for the budget to have a VMS sign installed there, where the 96 and the 77 pick up, and also to answer the question for the touchless technology for the signs, I was suggesting a motion sensor or a quiet locator to actually guide you of where the button would be to get the information from these new audible signs. And that's it there. Thanks.
I can speak.
Cardi, you want to take it?
I can speak to both of those. The second one I'll take first. We have not looked at motion. Sorry, we have not looked at motion activation for audio of digital signage. At least not these screens that we're installing in rapid transit stations. We actually have looked at motion activated audio for our solar powered e-ink screens that are going up on surface branches, on the Green Line, and at bus stops. In that case, we chose not to use motion activated audio because we were concerned about if it plays so often that it actually sort of powers down the batteries that are solar powered, that would result in the screens turning off entirely, and that would be a bad experience. But I will make a note that we should look into it for these screens in stations. To your first comment, yes, we actually, 18 months ago, we looked at trying to fill gaps in where we don't have VMS signs, and the upper busway at Harvard is one of them. We're, I think, a few weeks away from having stamped engineering drawings for the construction of what it would take to get a new VMS sign or two in the Harvard upper busway. We would then need to find a capital project to piggyback onto to actually have the construction work done. But I guess to be responsive to your question, we have identified the gap there. We have done the engineering and sort of electrical design work for how we would install one or two VMS signs in the upper busway at Harvard. And I'm hoping to have a way to actually get those installed in the next 12 months.
Also become a work in progress kind of a thing. It's just where it's going to take some time. And just one quick question. I was wondering if off the off-peak hours, not the on-peak hours, but the off-peak hours, if the announcements could be activated more often for the bus information, because I noticed when I'm waiting at night, you have to really wait a long time to hear updates on the different buses, whether you're waiting at Davis or Harvard or just more to have them announced more often, so just have a better idea of how much time you have to wait and everything. Because sometimes you're really waiting a long time to hear the next update and when the next 88's are arriving, or the I say just on the off peak. I wouldn't say on the rush hour, because the rush hour you're dealing with too much activity with buses coming all the time. But I was thinking maybe like after 7 p.m. or before 6 a.m. or something, something like that and everything.
That's an interesting question. I don't know whether the announcements are programmed to play less often during off-peak hours. I can certainly try and get an answer, unless you, Logan, know whether our software programs them to play less often in off-peak hours.
Yeah, and this would be for the busway countdown signs. Tom, I don't think currently that they play like more or less often in the off-peak hours, but I think that is something that we could, Carti's team, our teams are looking at sort of overhauling some of that software that does the bus countdowns, and I think that's something that potentially we could look into, is whether, maybe in the off hours we'd want to sort of play that information more. So it's a good suggestion.
So it's a matter of updating and tweaking it and everything.
Yeah, I think that particular software we use for the busway countdowns is one we want to take a fresh look at that software anyway. So I think this is a good suggestion that we can look into as we're overhauling that.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
And next, I'm gonna call on Dennis Kirkpatrick.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm a little hollow sounding here, but hopefully you can understand me. I just wanted to make a brief comment on the cost of doing some of the infrastructure work at the MBTA. This is not a problem unique to the MBTA. Rather, it is actually a problem that extends across the United States of America and well into Canada. I just published an article for an organization that I am affiliated with, the Rail Users Network, based in the United States. And I obtained an article from a gentleman living in Germany. And he is in an organization very similar to RTAG. He is actually employed in power generation and occasionally locomotive engines. He works for a diesel manufacturer. And there was a comparison they did, or he did, I should say, with respect to electrifying a particular section of rail in his area. And that would be putting up the high voltage wires for the power of trains. Also compared this to a similar project, similar mileage in California. And I have a lot of statistical data, but I'm going to summarize. Basically, to do approximately 64 miles of track, and that's 2 tracks in and out, to electrify the line. In Germany, the cost was $450 million, 450 million. However, a slightly less effort in California of just 49 miles of double track came out at $2.3 billion. That's billion, B as in boy. So the cost in Germany factored out to approximately $9 million per mile. And in the United States, it factored out to $47 million per mile. So I feel the MBTA's pain with respect to this. It's not just them. This is every transit and rail company or state agency, and even Amtrak at the federal level that is experiencing this. And it has only been exacerbated by the cost of materials that has ratcheted up terribly in during the pandemic. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I understand the need for these things. Certainly, I support the construction of full raised platforms like we got in Salem as stations are, brought about. But at the same time, they are cash strapped, and a lot of this requires federal money. And as we all know, federal money not only has strings attached, quite often it has a large chain and a boat anchor attached. And that's basically what I wanted to add here. I do feel your pain with respect to boarding, believe me. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you, Dennis. So it looks like we have three folks left with their hands raised, so I think we'll get to everybody. Next, Esther Minor.
Yes, it's me again.
Hi,
I do have a question regarding some of the commuter rail stations, especially the one here in Lowell where I am now. This is my second time living here in Lowell, and my second time complaining about this platform. There are parts of this platform that is coming apart, and I don't know how long this commuter rail station has been here, but the elevator leading down to the platform, as well as the platform and the lighting on the platform, need to be taken care of, and like to know when that would be fixed or looked into. And I didn't know this until I spoke with the people at the ride, that when my tap pass had been changed from one that read the ride to blind access, that the MBTA had declared me legally blind. That has now been verified by Mass Eye and Ear, that I am now declared legally blind. What I would like to know is, as much as I'm riding the commuter rail, why is there not any assistance given to those that are legally blind? I don't even see assistance given to those that are totally blind. And as I say, coming in from Boston, when I come into Boston from Lowell and come into North Station, that platform is so dark, whether it's daylight outside or not. I have almost, at certain parts of that platform, almost gone into the train well. And for me, that's not a good thing. So what will system-wide accessibility do to help us that are legally blind get through your dark commuter rail stations?
Thanks, Esther. I'm hearing, Laura, you want to talk about this?
Sure. So let me start with Lowell station itself. So you may be aware Lowell is a little bit unique in that it is actually, the station itself is managed by the local regional transit authority.
Okay.
Not directly by the MBTA, although we have a close relationship with them. And I do know we were in a meeting with them not that long ago, where we were discussing the need to update both the stairs that lead to the platform as well as the 2 elevators. And they were beginning work to sort of spec out and put together the budget to do that. We had discussed the condition of the platforms a little bit during that conversation. However, the focus really was on the stair and the elevators. But Esther, we can get you more information on where that stands. To your second, more general question, it is a really good question. It's also a really hard question. You know, the majority of our commuter rail stations that are not located close to the city are unmanned. The staff work on the trains. We do not have, largely Keolis does not have staff on the platforms available to provide assistance. We have a number of policies in place around the responsibilities of train crews. So if a train crew member is aware that somebody needs assistance getting to the train, getting on the train, they are required to assist. If you are at a station where there is staff, and we are scaling up staff significantly in our core system, they are available at all times to provide assistance. But in general, at some of those farther flung stations, including Lowell, it's going to be rare that there will be an employee at the station ready to assist. If you find yourself at a station and you're not comfortable with getting from one point to another, there are call boxes that you can use to ask for a crew member to assist you when they arrive. And you can always call our main number, which is 222-3200, or our police line, which is 222-1818, I believe, and let someone know you need assistance. But in general, I think for those traveling at commuter rail stations, people do need to be aware that they likely will need to feel comfortable getting themselves from the entrance to the platform themselves.
Okay. But like I said, most of the time when I have the issue, it's when I'm coming into Boston. Once the train pulls into North Station, like I said, it could be daylight. Sometimes I could see where the platform is lit, and then there's other parts of the platform where there are no lights on at all. And those are the areas where I have the hardest time seeing, going from light to dark on that platform, coming on that commuter rail.
All right, well, Esther, that ties back to your earlier comment. So let us follow up on the wayfinding and lighting program and get that feedback about North Station commuter rail platform to our station maintenance folks. But just one thing for you to be aware of, and for everybody here to be aware of, particularly when you're traveling into the city, and definitely at a major station like North Station. If you think you might need assistance when you exit the train, let the conductor or one of the crew members know that, and they will radio ahead to basically their station counterpart, and they can meet you at the platform. I know that's not ideal. We want to get the lighting fixed above all else, but that's a safety net option available to you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So next in the queue, we have Lois again, and then Harriet, and then we're going to end with Andy Foreman. So we're going to take our last 3 questions now. So Lois?
I have been talking to Jason Lewis. I've been talking to Kate Lipper Garabedian. I've been talking to Donald Wong, and they are working on trying to get this squared away, a platform, and it's just, you can't imagine. Oh, by the way, just for your information, I am legally blind. I was a 2-pound, 10-ounce baby. So also 2 things. One, do you have a link to this, or can I get a copy of this particular program or meeting? The other thing, do you have the names of the top people in the MBTA and numbers?
So there will be a meeting summary posted of this meeting and emailed out to the RTAG mailing list.
Will I be on it?
Yes, anyone who registered for this meeting is being automatically added. There is an option to opt out.
Email address. To my email address.
Yes, the email address that you registered with for this meeting.
Okay.
And then to contact the MBTA, you can find all of that information on the MBTA's website.
But that's not my question. Who are the people in charge?
Someone from the T want to take this?
Yeah, I'm not sure who you mean by in charge. Our general manager is a man named Steve Poftak.
Who?
Steve Poftak, Poftack. Sorry. I oversee the team and the accessibility department, and my name is Laura Brailsford.
Laura.
Laura.
Last name?
Brailsford. B as in boy, RELSFORD. And again, Lois, I will get your contact information through Jessica, and I will plan to send you and your husband an email, so you have my information
and phone numbers.
I don't have a phone number to give out, but I will reach out to you. We'll reach out to you by email.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Right, thank you.
Sorry, I just want to add that Laura, I think you misspelled Steve Poftak's name. It's Poftak, not Poftack.
All right, we're gonna delete this from the recording of the meeting.
Too bad too bad you don't have a tech savvy person manning the recording.
I do. I've got the whole technology team here. So
That was a sarcastic comment.
I do actually, Jessica, you sent me a great note a second ago. One thing that we have not talked about at all in today's meeting that I really do want to share, because this is a great free resource for everyone. Certainly does not address all of the concerns that folks have raised, but I think it's really great to know about, and we would ask you to share this with your friends and family. The T oversees a free program of travel training services. So if you or anyone you know would like more information on the accessibility of the T, including getting prepared with a trained professional travel trainer to go out with you and take multiple trips until you feel comfortable with taking that trip, we will provide that training free of charge. So you can find more about that on our website if you go to mbta.com/accessibility, or you can email swa@mbta.com and we can point you in the right direction. But for those that don't travel regularly and feel a little like overwhelmed by our system, which is completely understandable, travel training is a really great resource.
Thanks, Laura. So next we have Harriet, and then we'll end with Andy Foreman.
Hello, my name is Harriet Ranvik. I'm in Somerville. I'm blind. And recently an elder who is sighted, but a walker user, has expressed a concern, which I think will ultimately impact me too, with the bike lanes and the crosswalks. I'm aware that they time the the bicycle crossings more quickly than the pedestrian ones, but this friend is very worried about the changes in Porter Square. And I wondered, does the MBTA work with the Cambridge City or Cambridge and state and you with any of that street accessibility, or is that totally apart from MBTA?
Harriet, thank you so much for bringing that up. I was hoping someone would talk about some of this today.
Great. And if more information will come via email, that's fine too. I'm not handy with the website, I have to admit, but I get help if that's the only way I can get it.
Laura,
that's it.
You want to touch base on this?
Oh yeah, I can speak to bike lanes a little bit. Although I wish I had more concrete information. Generally decisions about bike lanes in cities and towns are left very much up to the discretion of the city or town. Our service planning team, they are the group that sort of decides where bus routes go and what the schedules look like. They work to partner with cities and towns and help kind of influence and weigh in on decisions. I will say really candidly that I don't think we yet as an agency are involved enough in the decisions, particularly around bike lanes. We have over the last few years seen bike lanes popping up system-wide, definitely not just in Cambridge, that really have made it a lot more challenging for pedestrians and bus operators to feel confident sort of boarding and exiting vehicles or crossing streets. So, we've been working to have a lot of conversations to raise awareness about accessibility and the issue. But I think this is a great example of something that I think with a partnership with RTAG and writers like yourself, we really want to work together to try to push on some of these issues, to have accessibility be front and center in that decision making rather than an afterthought.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. And thank you, Harriet, for bringing that up. I know several people have, I've talked with several people about that issue already. So we'll have to connect and talk more about that offline too.
Thank you so much. Great.
I'll pull your info from the registration. Thanks, Harriet.
Thank you.
And then last but certainly not least, Andy Foreman.
Thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to touch bases on the improvements to signage. As a legally blind person, the signage has really increased and made my travel on the subways and buses and commuter rail. I live here in Plymouth, much easier for me to do it. I've always feared I would get on a wrong bus or wrong train or whatever, and that hasn't happened. The contrast of the signs are really excellent. I can get right up there and see that, and with my aids through my iPhone and my telescope, I could see all the signs, and the contrast is really good. I also wanted to quickly mention the customer service. I'm at I ride out of the Kingston stop, and the only assistants really are the engineers or the people that are on the train, and they are really good. In fact, they know me. I take the same trains, the same 7:30 train in the morning, 5:33 train at night. So they know me, and Billy and Stephanie tell me where I'm going, and the assistants, and they also tell me that, oh, it's Kingston or stop or whatever. So that is improved. So in my overall experience, and people that I've talked to, I work at the Boston Center for Independent Living, they have also made the same comments, that the experience has gotten a lot better than where it was years ago. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Andy. All right, well, if miracles happen, we are ending right at 4:30. Who knew we could do it? So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming here today, and thank you for all of your feedback and comments. And we certainly will follow up with some of you. And if anyone else has any further feedback or comments they wish to share, please feel free to reach out to RTAG directly at rtag@bostoncil.org. And the next month will be the general membership meeting. That will be on April 28th. Jen, is it in the evening or in the afternoon? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
No, that's okay. I believe it's 2 p.m. to 3:30.
2 p.m. Thank you very much. Next, we'll have their meeting at 2 p.m. to 3:30. And then the following month, we'll have our next listening session, and that will be on the RIDE paratransit services. So stay tuned, more details for those to come. All right, thank you everyone for coming, and we will see you at our next meeting, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.